So I'm sitting here with three beautiful ladies, but two I've known for my whole life practically. Oh, hello, 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 hello. There you go. Sandy is the sister of my sister-in-law, my brother Dean's wife, and Rebekah is Dean's second daughter. So it's great to have them in town. And Rebekah has five boys. And I feel badly because I got to meet him shortly here in Vegas when they were visiting once, but I've never really gotten to know them individually. So why don't you just introduce the oldest to the youngest and a little bit about their personality or something fun about them?
Okay. Well, Wyatt.
You can bring that a little closer.
So Wyatt's my oldest. He will be 24 in November. And he is, like, he and I don't want to say that we're the closest. We're not the closest, but we definitely have a different relationship than my other boys. Our brains really kind of think on the same level.
Was that because he's the first?
I don't know. I think it's just our personalities are a little bit more alike than the other boys. Wyatt's very much a hands-on kind of kid. If he wanted to have something, he would make it. If he didn't know how to make it, he'd go figure out how to make it. And so he and I enjoy making things together. We enjoy working on cars together. Like, that's just kind of our thing. And I've always been that way too. Like, I'll see something and in my brain know how to, like, I want to make this, and I'll go find the parts and do it. So that's very much Wyatt. He is incredibly thoughtful. It takes a lot to get him angry. Like, he just is not, he doesn't let that come out. He's just very kind of even keel. So he is auto collision technician, and so he fixes cars that have been in accidents. He's extremely gifted in that. He did the VOTEC program with the high school, and so he learned this trade while he was in high school. And actually, his senior year competed in state competition in auto collision.
I remember that.
And through Skills USA, and he came in first in the state of Maryland, and then he went to nationals and came in 8th in the nation.
Wow.
With that. And so that afforded him being offered a great position, and he's been doing it ever since and loves it. And he's engaged to be married in December.
Yay.
And then there's Elisha. He'll be 23 in a couple weeks. He'll be on the 22nd. And he got married last year. And he is the wittiest kid I know. And he has always been that way. I mean, in a split second, he has something to come right back at you and has us all howling. He's just extremely witty, extremely humorous, and
made him popular in school.
It was interesting because we homeschooled for like 9 years. So like Wyatt, the oldest, he homeschooled all the way to high school. And then the other boys we put in, so Elisha was 5th grade when he went to traditional school. And it was interesting because when he went to middle school, he talked about how it was kind of weird because all the kids were like kind of vying for attention and like to see who was, and he just like, that's kind of stupid, right? And so it was interesting because he never ever was a follower, ever. He was always the leader, and he didn't care. Like, I remember one time he came home and he said one of the kids on the bus had something inappropriate on their telephone, a picture of a young lady that was inappropriate. And he tried to show Elisha, and Elisha was like, I don't want to look at that. And the kid was like, oh, and Elisha's like, it's just not cool to me. Like, it's not cool. It's not respectful. And I was like, you said that to him? And he goes, I did. And I was like, yeah. That's Elisha's very much where Wyatt also was never a follower, but Wyatt's a little bit more quiet. Elisha's a bit more in your face. Like, I mean, he's not obnoxious, but he's going to tell you exactly what he believes and why he believes it. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't see gray. Elisha's very much of a black and white person, which can cause issues when you're trying to have conversations with him about stuff. It's either right or it's wrong. And which in a way can be fantastic. In other ways, you're just like, I just need you to be a little more flexible. But, it's beautiful watching him now with a wife and watching him be this amazing provider for her. And, she works full time. She actually works at the school I work at. But watching him really think about her and their future family and what he wants for that. And he is working so hard. He also did the VOTEC. He also is an auto collision technician. And we call him our little old man. And he's been a little old man even when he was younger. Like, he has always thought about saving money. He's always thought about like all those things. That's Elisha. And then we have Quentin. And Quentin just turned 21 in June. And he is, I'd say, the quieter one out of all of them. He still has his moments, but he's definitely the more reserved. He does not show his emotions. Like, he just really he lays low. He did a welding program through the VOTEC, and he is a welder for the Coast Guard Yard. He's a civilian, but he works at the Coast Guard Yard welding on their ships. Wow. And so that's a really cool thing to see about him. He, out of all of my kids, is the hardest worker. So if I had a project in the house that I really needed help with, I would always go to Quentin. It might not be the easiest to get him started, but I could get him started and I could walk away, and he just is like the workhorse, and he will just do it. And which is really great because he doesn't stop in the middle. He has a project, you give him a project. Once you get him going, he's good. He's got it. He also has a sense of humor, but it's a little bit more dry. It's a little bit not as obvious. Like Elisha's is very obvious. And he's not the one to say, I love you a whole bunch, but he will, and it'll be kind of an unexpected thing. And sometimes it'll just be like a little text message. And I'm like, oh, those are like the golden moments because they're totally unexpected from it. It's not like I don't think he loves me. He's just not one to put it all out there. And so it's really neat to see him. He's been dating a young lady now for like 6 months, and it's neat seeing him, how he behaves with her.
Evolving,
right,
emotionally.
Yeah. And so it's really been good to see that with him. But all of my boys, like, we worked so hard to teach our boys how you respect women, and you're like little things. You're holding the door. You're, like all these little things. And so as they're getting older, now I get to see it, which it makes me emotional. But it's so cool to see. Like, sometimes as a parent, you think, oh, everything I've done is not working. It's not sinking in. And then I'll see those moments with like Wyatt with Katie, or Elisha with Marianne, or Quentin with Court. And I'm like, oh, they do get this, So Nash, he just graduated. He will be 19 on the 18th of this month. And he also did the welding program. And his senior year, he actually did an internship with NSA, or the government agency that we aren't supposed to say. And he was really interested in getting involved in their workshop. But you have to kind of start out in the office and, kind of work your way. And he did it for his entire senior year. And I could tell, like, it was exciting to him because I don't know what he was doing because he couldn't tell me, right? But I know whatever he was doing, he seemed to enjoy it, but I could see it wasn't bringing him joy. And so we talked again about, do you want to go back to welding? Because the summer going into his senior year, he worked and did welding. And he was like, yeah. And so he called that company back up. I'm so proud of him on his own. He called that company back up, said, "Hey, what's going on?" And the guy's like, "We want you back."
Mm.
And he was going to make double what he was making with the government.
Wow, that's good.
And so he leaves the house at 4:30 in the morning, and it's about a 45-minute drive. And he works an hour of overtime every single day he works. And he comes home just cover. I mean, well, all my boys come home dirty. And he comes home dirty as can be, go straight to the shower. But it's been really neat to see that joy back in his eyes, like when he's talking about stuff. Nash is, for him, it's like he sees a whole bunch of different moving parts, and he is also he and Elisha are the most similar. So he has that quick wit. He also is a little bit more in tune with like kind of what's going on with everybody else. He's a little bit more like that black and white, but Nash sees a little more gray than Elisha. But he is very much, you're not going to really change his views on stuff. And it's really been interesting to watch him like with his friends. And he and Elisha are like little disciples. Like they'll go out and tell people about Jesus. And, he sat in the pickup truck of his best friend one time, just talking to him about Jesus and how, going to church and like all these different things. And I thought, there's not many 18-year-olds that are going to sit with their buddy and talk about Christ. And so it's really neat to see how that has kind of been a stream through the boys' lives and what they do. So he is going to continue on where he is in welding. He just came to me the other day and said that his boss came to him, and there's guys that are older than Nash kind of doing the same thing. And he works for a fabrication company. So it's this huge building, and they do fabrication for construction. So there are plumbers that work there. There's welders, there's electricians and stuff. And so they fabricate all these different pieces that will go on to different construction places, whether it's commercial or things like that. So the boss came to him and said, "Hey, I want to put you in charge of a project. And it's some big project. I think it's like 54. I don't know. There's a lot of these different components that he wants Nash to have a group under him making these things." And I thought, wow, that speaks volumes to what your boss is seeing about you. That one, you're a newer guy there, you're a younger guy, but he's giving you this huge responsibility. I also see it as it's a test too. Like he's probably testing to see how Nash delegates and how he follows, all those things. But Nash was telling about it, and I thought, is he going to be nervous? And he was just shoulders back, like so
Confident.
just confident. Like he didn't even like, what do you think I should do? And I said, well, are you going to get a plan? Like, does he get, like, how was that? And I said, are they going to have you like build one and then check and make sure you know what you're doing, And he's like, well, I meet with him and he's giving me all the specs that I need. I'm this, that, and the other. And I'm like, okay. So, that, I don't know when that will start. I know that will start shortly. They have to gather up all the materials and stuff for it. So it will be interesting to see.
I watch from a continent across from each other. You're 150 miles from an ocean on one side. I'm 250 miles from an ocean on the other. So we're as far apart as you can get. But one of the things I've always just loved and find inspirational is how you guys do things together, and you manage to continue as they get older. From young kids to take these goofy pictures of toilet paper Halloweens and things like that. And I just think it's amazing how you got that camaraderie with such a big family. Did you want to have 5 kids, I should say?
We wanted a big family, but can I tell you really quickly about the last one, and then I'll go back to that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So let me sneak back. So Mason is my youngest.
Oh.
And he was 16 in January. And so he is going into his junior year, and he also is doing the VOTEC program, but he is going into plumbing, and he loves it. And so Mason is, my boys are all smart, but school has come the easiest to Mason. Math, he's just a complete whiz in math. Like we'll sit there and he'd be like, oh, that's blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I didn't even have a second to process the equation. And he's got it. Just school has always been super easy. Remember when he was little, he said he wanted to be a math teacher. And I remember asking him later on, like, I guess he was maybe middle school, and he was like, I don't want to be a teacher. And I was like, I used to want to do math. So for him, school's always been easy and just effortlessly, and he's like a straight A kid and, that kind of stuff. And he never got to be homeschooled. So Nash was homeschooled kindergarten, first grade. Mason was never homeschooled, which for some reason I have a little guilt over that. I know that's stupid, but like I didn't get to have those moments with him. But I've never put stress on them about school, because as long as you're learning something, I don't care what grade you get. I don't care how you do on the test. Just I want you to learn, right? And so Mason, as effortlessly as it is, he's just a laid back kid. Like he really is a laid back kid. I mean, his brothers can rile him and he can get very upset. But Mason just kind of rolls with the punches. I think that's part of being the youngest out of a big family, that you don't come first, and you have to go to all your brother's stuff and you have to, do all that. And so Mason has just been always my really flexible kid. Like he doesn't expect to be the top on everything, so he'll be like, hey, I want to do this. And if it doesn't work out, he's like, it's fine, But I mean, he will stand up and say, I really want to do something. But he's just super flexible. And I think that's because he's had to live with everybody, right? Mm-hmm. And he gets along with all of the brothers. And so it's just, I'm blessed in the fact that, one, that was all boys and no girls. But two, like that they all genuinely get along. Like there was two of them that when they were younger, it was cats and dogs, and we would plan things around keeping them apart from each other. It was terrible when they were younger. But now as they've gotten older, now they're moved into that friendship, like they're friends with each other, right? I mean, they still get annoyed with each other. I mean, we all do, right? But they genuinely, those boys love each other, get along with each other, support each other. Like any competitions, all those Skills USA, I mean, they've always gone to all of those competitions. And Mason competed, and generally you don't compete until your junior, senior year. And Mason's plumbing teacher asked him his sophomore year, he's like, you're doing so fantastic, I want you to compete. And he was competing with 13 kids in the competition, all juniors and seniors, and he came in second in the state. And the only reason that he came in second is it came down to the tiebreaker test, and Mason hadn't been given the information about the test thing. So like he's doing really well. So he was a plumber's helper this summer and has loved it. And you asked about the crazy things that we've done. I didn't never set out like I only want 5 kids, but I knew I wanted a big family. And that's how many God gave us. Like we just left it open, and that's just how it happened. And they're all so close in age. And again, that was God's timing, and it was perfect. Because they were all, if you're doing diapers, let's do 3 diapers. Doing car seats, like everybody was kind of in the same phase, which was great. Sometimes it makes it difficult because everybody wants the same toy, but I never was the mom that was really routined. Like I never was the mom like, oh, the baby can only be fed at these times, and nap times have to be this time, and we have to be home by this time at night because the bedtime. I never was that mom. I always was, we're going to go out and do stuff. When the baby's hungry, baby eats. When baby's tired, baby sleeps. Like my kids got naps, but I wasn't super routine. So my kids grew up just always being flexible, right? We always did stuff. And they never really knew what was coming next. And so I never made a conscious decision to do weird things with my family. But it kind of started and it just never stopped. And so my boys have always been game to do weird things. Like when Wyatt and Elisha was a baby, and the first Easter that we had the two of them together, I had those fuzzy bunny ears and I put them on the boys and we took the Easter picture. And then Quentin came along, and then the 3 of them had the bunny ear picture. And it has been a tradition now every single year. All 5 of the boys go in my front yard without shame, and they put on these fuzzy bunny ears, and I still have the original 2 bunny ears, and they all 5 take pictures willingly, and
it's beautiful.
they look forward to it. They look forward to it. And now that we've got girls coming into our families, they join into these pictures, and I still take my original 5 boys, and then I add the girls in, because I'm like, every year I have to have just the boys. We've done stuff like the last leap year. I don't know. I was at work and I was like, oh, today's leap year. And I went out to Sam's Club and I got a box of frozen frog legs. And while I was at school, I quickly made frog face little hats and put string around it. And we had them like on our foreheads and wore those, and had fried frog legs for dinner on leap year. And I remember we had a friend over during that time, and they were like, what are you guys doing? And my kids were like, oh, it's leap year. This is just like what and I've never done that on leap year, but it was totally
a new tradition.
But it was like a normal thing. Like, this is what we do. Like, we do weird stuff. And so it's always been fun to see my boys. I think just because there was always something different going on, and we didn't have certain like set routines all the time, and I would always throw in these weird things. They've just come to expect it and to roll with it. And so I hope as my boys start having families, I hope that they keep some of that spontaneity and weirdness that they've grown up with.
Yes.
Because the boys, they don't ever really know what to expect from me. And I think it's a good thing. But it's kind of fun because they just never know what mama's going to pull out, what I'm going to do or ask them to be.
And Bob seems like a good sport. He puts up with all of it.
Yes, he does. Bob's usually game for it all. And there's times that he'll sit at the end of the table and just kind of look at me and like, what? Like, he can't even get the question out. It's like a what or a why or how. And it's just kind of like, okay, honey. And then we just do it.
I've studied psychology a fair bit over the past 40 years and use it a lot in sales. So I can kind of categorize when people tell me what they do for a living. I kind of know their personality type. And firemen and policemen have a very similar lifestyle. And that is, when they go to work in the morning, unlike most people, there's a possibility they might not come home that night. I mean, it's just part of that job. And as a result, when you drive down the street and you see the house that the fireman or policeman lives in, it has the boat and the RV and the jet ski and the little desert dune buggies and, all the toys, because they live in the day. And you guys kind of remind me of that, because it's like, I know it must be outrageously expensive to go into a restaurant with 7 people. I know how it is to go in by myself. But, when you go on vacation, go down to North Carolina to timeshare or something, you have just this tremendous amount of expense, even just the transportation vehicle to get you there.
Right.
So I'm saying it's amazing you've been able to do so much with the kids. And you have to be an accountant to keep that whole group together and make it work.
I mean, we chose, that when I got pregnant, I stayed home. I worked until I couldn't. And then once we had Wyatt, I was forever a stay-home mom. And then I did end up going back to work once the boys were in traditional school. But I think Mason was maybe in kindergarten when I finally went back to work. But we made conscious decisions that there was things that we weren't going to have. And that was okay. We weren't going to have them because that money wasn't there. And those were sacrifices that we made because for us, it was more important for me to be home, right? And thankfully, my husband had a job that Bob could provide, right? Like, thankfully, the Lord provided that. But there was a lot of things that we didn't do because we wanted to have the family set up in a certain way. And so we became very creative in how we could obtain things or how we could do things. And so, might go on the vacation, but instead of going out to eat all the time, we would take the crock pot with us. Or And so when you have a large family, period, you have to kind of come up with solutions on how you're going to do things, right? Because you're right. You can't just go out to the movies all the time. You can't go to restaurants all the time. But you can have your dinner at home and go somewhere fun for dessert, or, there's all these little different things. And I remember early on, it would be kind of stressful because you're like, oh, we've got to get all these things. But then you kind of get in this groove and you just know. And I was great with coupons and, all those little things that I would do to help, because I'm like, Bob's working really hard at his work. So let me work hard at trying to use everything that he brings home well, and we made a decision. We made a conscious decision. We don't have, we couldn't have huge life savings because what he was making, we were using for our family.
Right.
And that's the decision that we made. And we're not upset about it, like it is what it is.
I love the pictures of like the kids' birthdays. You make it so special. You wrap up 8 or 9 things. It could be a spatula, and you put it in a big box with a bow on it and things. You really make it work so
Right.
that they feel special, and
Right.
the love is obvious.
And yeah, the boys get it. And it's really sweet because you're talking about the big box. So this tradition started when Mason was like in 5th grade. And we received a box for him because he was hospitalized for several days. And the school that he went to, all the teachers put together this massive box full of stuff for him at the hospital. And he is now 16, and I still have that red box, and it's become the birthday box.
Mm.
And it started out by accident, but it has now become the box. And so for everybody's birthday, they get their presents, but always one gift goes in this red box. And I have this big yellow bow that I make to put on it. And sometimes it's like the special gift. And other times it's like a stupid little gift, like a little thing that we just stick in there. And it's always filled with blankets or sheets or whatever to kind of fill this massive box. And it's become the expectation. And there was one, I think it was Bob's birthday last year. I didn't put it in the red box. And I didn't think about it, but the boys were like, Mama, where's the red box? Where's the red box? And I was like, so I went upstairs and I had to quickly unwrap something and put it in the red box. But birthdays and Christmases, I mean, they've grown up with, you don't get 20 gifts, you know? And we try to make birthdays where you get the special stuff. At Christmas, they might get more items, right? But they're not really special things, right? They're just little things. But for birthdays, we always try to make sure that what they get is the things that they are looking forward to or what they're needing or whatever. But I've been blessed in the fact that the boys have never been, I'll ask them like, I need you to give me a list of things for your birthday. And I might have to ask them like 4 or 5 times. And I might get like 3 or 4 items. They've never been kids that are like, I want the Nintendo and I want this and I want that and I want all these new clothes. Like they've never come to us with like lists. It's just, it just makes me proud when I think about, they'll give me a few ideas, but they're not all about this stuff, And so, that was kind of nice too, whenever you're a single income family, that you don't have kids that are all about the stuff. But even now, there's times that I have to say like, hey, you have only told me 2 things. And they're like, I need new socks. I'm like, I can't make that your birthday.
Right.
Like, so sometimes I have to really pry it out of them. But yeah, we do try to make those times, their birthday. The tradition is birthdays, you get whatever dinner you ask for, I'll make it for you. And then whatever cake you want, I'll make it for you. And I've always made their birthday cakes. I mean, there's been times where we've had to buy a cupcake or something because it's just something's going on. But they've always gotten what they asked for their food or their dinner and their dessert. So, hopefully we'll just keep that going.
I love it. I'm so impressed with what you've done. And obviously the kids have all turned out great because of it.
Thank you.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited with my boys. I'm blessed. And, sometimes I think about it and it gets me all emotional, when I think back on it. Because I'm in that weird phase. Like the boys, they're not all adults. And even the ones that are adults are still young adults, And Mason's like, I don't have anybody that's little, but I'm like right there in that spot where like, you're never finished, right? But you're almost to the end of like that full on parenting, but I'm not to the point where I'm done. And so it's this weird little spot. And so sometimes it's really hard though, because sometimes Bob will come to me and like, you have to back off. He's 16 now. You're like, you got to back off. So sometimes it's hard you forget they're not little. And so I do miss those moments. I do miss the little boy voices and like all the craziness.
Does that mean there's more coming?
Well,
Okay.
you might want to talk to Bob.
Oh, yeah, maybe not, huh?
I've always said I take as many as God gives me, but now might be a little late.
Okay.
I don't know that I would start that over, but I cherish those moments. I'm glad we've had them. I'm glad my kids have always been game, and that I've got a husband who has always been like right next to me, like a team. Like it just doesn't. He's always been more the good guy, and I'm always like, I'm the bad cop kind of thing. But we've always managed to make it work. And it's just kind of beautiful now to get to that point. While I miss all those little things, I now look forward to like, what will it look like when we've got the more
Grandkids.
kids married and grandkids coming in, and I've been blessed with the daughter-in-law being so close with her, and like her parents are sweet people and we get together with them, and just really our goal is, as our kids get married, instead of making these two separate families, making sure that we're all, I mean, we don't have to all go on vacation together, right? But we want to make sure that the in-laws and Bob and I, like that we're friends. Like that we want to make sure that it just continues to grow this family, instead of all of a sudden now our 5 boys who we've been so close with are all going off, because our boys are going to go off to be, the girls aren't going to leave their families, So we
Right.
want to make sure that we're including everybody and keeping that growing. So I look forward to it. Who knows?
Hey, this is fun.
Thank you, Uncle Scott.
Love you, baby.
I love you.